Hi, I'm Haley.
And I'm Chrissy.
And welcome to Talking Shit. Today we are talking about submissiveness.
Submissive wives.
Correct.
Submissiveness.
Submissiveness in relationships and just all kinds of things in life.
Yeah.
So we kind of touched a little bit on this last week. Why do you look nervous? I'm about to say some foul things or something.
Because you are.
I'll keep it clean today. No, I won't. So, yes, the Bible actually talks about submissive wives. And while, yes, I agree with that. I think some people, I don't want to say men, I hate when people put men and women in like different categories, but some people kind of have a twisted view of what submissiveness in a relationship should look like. Sometimes I almost feel like it gets used against a person in a relationship when it should be the complete opposite. You should want to be submissive to your partner in a healthy relationship.
So what does submissiveness mean to you in a relationship?
Submissiveness to me means I'm letting my spouse lead the house. Not that he's making all of the decisions, but he is the foundation of the house. So I do believe in a hierarchy in a house. I believe there's God, then there is the man of the house, and then there's the woman of the house, and then there is the children. So submissiveness to me means I'm letting my husband lead, and I'm letting him do it under a godly foundation. I'm not just saying, hey, I'm going to be a submissive wife and I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do because you're the man and I'm from your rib and that's God's way. That's not really the way that it is to me. I think that if you lay a good foundation, if you lay a foundation, even if you're not a person of faith, if you have a good foundation in your relationship, your woman, your wife, your partner will want to be more submissive in the relationship and let you lead and do those kinds of things. What about you? What's your definition of submissiveness in a marriage?
Well, so for me personally, it's almost kind of like the difference in love language. I think that submissiveness can mean different things for different people.
Correct.
For different marriages, relationships, whatever. So for me personally, I am a very strong personality.
Since when?
Shocking.
Is this new for 2024?
Yeah. And I have always been dependent on myself, get things done. I have been let down often by delegating things, so I'm just like, I'll do it. Even when it comes to driving.
But in times in life, you had no choice but to do those things. So
Correct.
It took a very special man, or it will take a very special man for a woman who's been through some things with men to get to that point or knock those walls down.
Correct, right. So I really never had a whole partner. I've had relationships, but I've never had a whole partner until my marriage now.
And it's not that your exes or, we're not talking bad about that. It's just they didn't, like, you and your exes just weren't the final destination meant to be.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And I'm thankful for each of those experiences because it really did lead me to my husband now. So for me in my relationship now, it has taken many, many years for me to have a submissive side at all. And about 2 years ago is when it really struck me that I was taking away his masculinity. And he loved me so much.
And when you do that to men, they get so defensive, not because...
My husband wasn't really defensive. He just loved me so much that he wanted...
But that, like, secretly that had to bother him.
Absolutely. Obviously.
Because men thrive on their, not all men, but most men thrive on their masculinity, their alphaness, the respect that they receive.
Right. Well, and what had happened is it built up and he really didn't say anything because he wanted me to feel safe and secure. So he was taken away from himself. And I was gladly taking it because I felt like we were fine. What I didn't realize is I was taking away his masculinity. So we did have
Let's talk about some ways that, really fast, a little pin in there. Let's talk about some ways that you actually can take away your husband, your boyfriend, your partner's masculinity without even like realizing that you're doing that. Because we don't, obviously, well, probably are some women out there who do want to take away the men's masculinity. I'm not one of those, and I don't think you're one of those. So if it's done, it's probably completely unintentional. I feel like one way that you can take away a man's masculinity is not respecting him, not respecting, like, say there's like a firm decision that you got and you kind of backdoor him on or things like that, without even realizing that's a sense of, I feel like, disrespect and kind of taking away his masculinity, his inner self of the lion, the tiger, the whatever he wants to identify with, to lead.
I think that happens a lot in parenting. I think the woman is home with the children so often, so, you know, they do the discipline and stuff like that, and they take the lead in that role. And then when the husband has an opinion or sets a rule or a guideline, a lot of times the mother is just defensive about it. I mean, that's so unfair. Mm-hmm. It really is so unfair.
And I feel like talking about money, if say a woman makes more money than her husband, or you know, constantly saying, well, I'm the breadwinner, or I make the money, or, you know, like, that kind of makes him feel like he's less of a provider and a less of, you know what I mean? And I know that probably women don't mean to do things like that. I don't know, you know, I'm just saying, I'm just thinking of little examples that like can be done that like you don't even realize that you're doing.
Well, you just, in conversation, sometimes you say, I booked that.
Correct.
Instead of including your spouse in that conversation.
Or like you said, constantly rejecting sex. That can be a way of taking their masculinity away.
Yeah, yeah.
So
one thing that I used to do to my husband, and this, you know, we talk about safety, so absolutely for anybody to have any submissiveness in a relationship, they have to feel safe. So
I better turn that. It's let me keep going off probably.
So one thing that I used to do is I have a fear of cars. I've been in multiple car accidents. And
you and me both, sister.
I would get in and I would always want to drive because I needed to feel like I was in control.
That's a really good one.
Safe. Well, he just always hopped in the passenger seat, really never said anything. And I realized that he had never said a word. Even after our fight, he never said anything. And we went to get in the car one time and it just hit me and I was like, it is so unfair to him. Why do I feel like he would not make sure I'm safe? You know?
So that's a great way to, because I feel like a huge, like you said last week, we did a full circle. One of the main things in submissiveness is feeling safe in the relationship, feeling safe mentally, physically. So let's touch real fast on maybe some things that men do that like we take their masculinity, but what are some things that maybe they do that take away our sense of feeling safe that they may not even be realizing that they're doing? I have a really good one, speaking of what you were just doing, driving. So I have really bad car anxiety too. So it works both ways. When we're handing over the reins and saying, hey, drive me around. When someone's texting and driving, I'm like, oh, just fuck my life, right? It's not worth anything. Like, so things like that, just little teeny tiny things like that. You picking up your phone, responding, riding someone's rear end in a car. Those are things that make me feel unsafe. And I'm sure it's probably the same for you.
It is exactly the same. And so when I started letting my husband drive, we had to have that conversation because he's always been a big car person. And
I'm not laughing. I'm actually thinking of how I act in a car that someone would be like, what does her do? So like if you go to rear end somebody, I have this, so you know how men, when they get scared, some of them will have like a womanly, where I'm going with this. So I have the opposite. I have like a very manly scream. If you go to rear end someone, I'm full on like holding on up here, got my legs up, and it's like the most scream.
I would probably say the same for me. I can turn fierce really fast.
Yeah. So what's some other examples that you can think of that take away a woman's or a partner's safeness in the relationship that the other may be doing they're not even realizing?
Well, you talked about the money thing. So this is the thing. I mean, there are things gender role wise, and sure that may not work for everybody, but for me that works, So like, I don't pump my gas, okay?
You just keep rubbing it in my face. I think we've talked about pumping gas on every episode, how Chrissy gets her gas pumped for. Next time I'm calling Joe, you better start coming and pumping my gas too. Apparently you're doing it.
You probably would. So this is the other thing, when we have weather like we have this week, I get dropped off at the door and I get
You told me that this morning.
I'm not getting my feet wet.
Yeah.
That's gross, But he also, he doesn't usually put away his clothes once in a while.
There's no perfect relationship.
Yeah.
There's sacrifices, give and take on both sides.
Yeah, like he isn't a deep cleaner. Sure, he'll help me do things. He usually does the dishes and stuff like that. But when it really comes down to like deep cleaning, that's all on me.
Yeah.
I don't expect that stuff from him. He doesn't expect me to.
So I know a really good one that people don't realize probably takes away a good amount of safetiness in a relationship, and it also destroys some other things too. Excessive phone usage. So like
I had to work on that.
So
yeah.
Say my partner, sitting there talking or at dinner and having, trying to have a nice conversation. I'm trying to talk about my day and yeah. That takes away a sense of like wantedness. It feels like rejection. It feels like, you don't really care. So I don't feel safe to tell you the things that are going on in my life because you don't really care.
Right. Well, a lot of, I do real estate. So for me, my phone is constant. And if it's on my mind, I have to do it right then or it's going to drive me crazy. I'm not going to be able to pay attention to your conversation anyway.
And it's just as simple as looking at somebody and saying, hey, hang on, I need to send this text message really fast. Give me 5 seconds. I'm going to send this. I'm going to respond and then put your phone down and listen. You do those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Joe and I are on a date. I leave my phone in the car most of the time. And I text my kids and I say, if you guys need something, Joe has his phone.
So you're good about it. On vacations, I know that you're it's been a goal to be very present in the moment. Because I remember a couple years ago having a conversation with you. It was a hard one. It's hard to have those conversations with your friends.
Yeah.
That are you're like, I don't know how this is gonna go, but it's the same as a relationship.
Yeah.
Friendships are the same as relationships. You have to nurture them. You have to work on them. You can't just, that's my friend.
And we even have some submissiveness in our relationship. We both have very passionate and strong personalities. And, we are very soft with each other at times, but
there's times we're just like, you know what, that one's not worth the battle.
Yeah, but there's times that one or the other of us has to kind of take control of the situation,
So I remember I distinctly remember saying to you, when I'm talking to you, I don't feel like you're present in the moment because you're on your phone, and I don't feel like you care about the conversation we're having. And I remember the look on your face. It was almost I wasn't sure how it was gonna go. I was like, oh God, I'm gonna piss Chrissy off telling her this. But it was almost like a sense of sadness, you felt sad that you were making me feel that way in the friendship.
And I think my response at that time was, you know what? You're right. I have got to do better at that because I'm so busy in life. And then I realized I do the same thing with my kids. So I have gotten a lot better.
And I'm just the opposite. I'm the type of person that I'll look at your text message and then it'll be the next day I respond, hey guys, how are you since yesterday? My eyes are watering.
Where's Haley? We have to have your location because she's getting ready for 2 hours and Haley does not talk to you while she's getting ready. I'm like, did somebody come kill you?
I don't talk when I'm getting ready. I try not to be on my phone. When I'm driving, I won't respond usually unless unless it comes across my screen and I can hit a fast reply to it. Otherwise,
I just call you. Yeah. I've learned.
Just call her.
Well, so that's the other thing with my husband, at least. One of the things for him is communication. He is huge in communication. And I am strong in communication, but my communication was not always intentional. So we both get busy with our days sometimes, but I always make sure that I respond to his text message, you know, because if he is going to take his time and check on me,
Yes.
I'm going to give him the respect to respond.
Yes.
And I think that sometimes we take away their masculinity because they text us throughout the day and we're like, but why do we not appreciate
Yeah,
that?
it's like he's thinking about me. He cares. Yes. So love, support, receiving, that's a great way to be submissive in a relationship.
And really, when you say submissive, most people take it sexually. And I can tell you, like, in our relationship, we've always had a very strong...
It's not all bad when it's sexual too, though.
No, well, that's the thing is, you know, for us, our physical relationship, not necessarily just sex, but our physical relationship has definitely gone to another level when I learned how to be more submissive in our relationship. And that doesn't mean necessarily more submissive in the bedroom. That means more submissive in our relationship where it made me desire him more. It opened me up to him more.
Yes. I think that that's some of the things that people forget. There's steps in place. It can be in every different stage and step in the relationship.
And why would you not want to continuously level up your relationship?
One of the big ones on how to be submissive in a relationship is, allowing the man to lead, giving him his masculinity, and trusting each other with wholeheartedness.
Until they give you a reason not to trust them. And that's a promise that Joe and I had made from the start. I'm going to tell you the truth, no matter what. If it hurts your feelings, if it makes you mad, we'll figure it out. So we are full disclosure with each other.
Well, I mean, that's good. I know that, like, in some relationships, you just kind of have to you have to lay a good foundation, but find what works for your relationship. Don't get frustrated and say, oh, well, yes, this is our relationship. We're going to put the foundation, God, and we're just going to keep trial and error until you find what works for you. And then do that. And then if you get worn on that, be open-minded, try new things. Like, always try to keep the love, the spark alive, and those type of things. Ways that a man can do things to make your wife, your partner, whatever, want to be more submissive to you is nurturing the relationship, nurturing her soft girl side.
Yes.
Things like that.
Well, a huge thing that my husband has always done is take me on dates, and he has been huge about it since we met. And that was hard for me. I had kids at home, I had things to do, and so it was hard for me to flip my mind off even for an hour or two, or to go for the weekend. But I knew it was important to him, so.
But Joe, I mean, here's the thing too, and you guys do of all the people I know, you guys really do make the best effort, and you guys really do the best at making dates and making time for each other. So let's talk about your one of your first dates with Joe, where
Poor Joe.
I mean, it's, like, this man could have run from the beginning, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it takes a special kind of guy and man that's gonna stay around, put the work in, and really nurture it.
Yeah. So long story short, I had a newborn, and
let's just give a little context, some backstory on that, because I don't want rumors to fly. Like, okay, Chrissy has a son, they have Hudson, they weren't together most of her pregnancy. She met Joe and her were not together were not together during her pregnancy.
We met while I was pregnant, but we were not involved while I was pregnant.
Correct. I just want to give some backstory to that way everybody knows.
Yeah. So, that's a whole nother episode. Anyway, so Joe had asked me out for multiple months, and I had a newborn at home, I had 3 other kids. I didn't feel emotionally.
And your last relationship destroyed you pretty much.
Yeah, emotionally I was not prepared to go into another relationship. I did not want to put my kids through it. So after literally months and months and months of him asking me, I think a solid 6 months, I did finally go out with him. And our first date, my daughter stayed home with my baby. And I most certainly had my phone and I was watching it. So we ended up going to a barbecue place and we sat down and ordered our food. And this dude was so nervous and he was so excited. And I crushed his world. My daughter called. My baby was crying and she thought he had a fever. And I was like, our food literally hit the table. And I looked at him and I said, I have to go. This is why I don't want to date. My newborn is bawling his eyes out. My daughter's freaking out. She thinks he has it. I have to go. And he was like, okay. So packed the food up and he's like,
and he wasn't annoyed.
Oh, he was not.
She's
mad.
just trying to get out of this date or blah, blah, blah.
Nope, he was not frustrated, mad. I definitely disappointed, but not frustrated, mad. So anyway, packed the food up and he was like, do you want to take some home? And I was like, I just want to get home to my kids, you know. I'm a mom. That's it. I'm a mom, dude. I want to be a mom. And so my car was at his house and we went to his house. He gave me a hug. I was on my way home in a complete panic and he called me and he was like, do you want me? I said, I'm going to have to take him to the hospital. He's got a fever. He said, do you want me to come to the hospital? And I'm like, no, this is awkward. We haven't even really officially been on a date.
Can you bring the dinner and we'll just eat?
And he said, let me tell you something. Your kids can go on every date with us the rest of our lives. I just want to spend time with you.
He might track back on that now.
Yeah.
He was trying to impress at that stage still.
My kids took
But they've always been a very vital part in it too. And it's never been like...
My kids took that literal. They will attend every date if we let them. No, but instantly right then, I knew that I was safe with him. His reaction and his softness to all of that. And we had broke up a couple times before we ended up getting married. And all I could ever think about was, I never wanted him to go give that special treatment to somebody else. I wanted that, you know?
Yeah.
So finally we aligned and we ended up married.
That's a good point to make though too. If there's things in your relationship, say, you're not feeling safe and communication. So communicate and say, listen, and like I've said a million times, it doesn't have to be an argument. Maybe that's worth a conversation with your spouse. Sitting down and saying like, when I bring things to you, it doesn't mean I'm arguing. I just want you to listen to understand and not listen to respond. So
on the flip side of that, I made him feel unsafe. I was so defensive, because of everything that I'd been through up to him, that I made him feel unsafe. So one thing that Joe would do is literally every night I'd get Hudson to bed and he was a baby and all the kids settled in, whatever, and then I would go to lay down finally at 10 o'clock and I just want to breathe. And he would be like, can we talk about something? And I'm like, no,
I just want my peace now.
It's 10 o'clock. I'm not talking about anything tonight. I want to go to sleep. Well, then he couldn't sleep, and I'd just be so exhausted, I would knock out. And I just kept denying him. Because
it is important for a man to feel, it is the word safe in a relationship.
Yeah,
I feel like it has a different meaning maybe than like what it does for a woman. But if your husband, your partner, whatever, is constantly walking around on eggshells because of it, imagine what that's doing for your relationship. So the big things is communication, talk about things. They may be issues, but they're only issues if you let them drag on. Just talk about it, nip it in the bud, try to come to some sort of a agreement where you guys both feel comfortable with what's going on or what's happening or whatever the situation may be.
So one thing I learned really fast to make him feel safe, because he had a lot to say and then I would get defensive and it was not productive. And so, but he wanted me to talk back. He wanted my communication back. So one thing I had to learn to do was listen to what he had to say and just take it all in and sit on it. But he had to learn to let me take my time to process everything, and then we could revisit it and have that conversation.
So I'm one of those people that I think of things and I interrupt and I speak it. I just have to get it out there. I have to say it and I have to get it out there. So I've been saying one of my goals this year is being really intentional when I speak. So I'm trying to take a step back from, first of all, I don't want to be known as an interrupter, and I probably am, and I'm very self-aware. After I do it, I'm like, shit, why did I just, but I wanted to say it. I just get so excited about it.
But this is the thing, when you're communicating, I understand that about you, you understand that about me, because we are both very, very, very passionate people.
Yeah, like if you interrupt me, I'm not like, oh my God, she interrupted me. I'm like, oh my God. And then I listen, and then I'm like, wait, what were we talking? I just go right back to it. But it's because we have an understanding. So if someone does know me, in the beginning of a relationship, say, I'm an interrupter. That's just something about me. I work on it constantly, but I'm an interrupter. If that's something that's gonna bother you, probably aren't gonna mesh well.
Yeah, I'm probably going to offend you. But no, I mean, Joe will be talking and I'll do the same thing. So I've had to work on that too, because again, he was speaking and then I would speak over him.
Because what we were doing was listening to respond instead of listening to understand. I'm really, really, really trying to listen to people more and be like, because I watched a TikTok, obviously, of a girl, and she used to work for people who were like millionaires and not that you have to act a certain way, but one of the main takeaways that she said, people who there's actually two that I really liked that I took away. They're very poised when they speak. They're very slow to speak. They think about what they're saying. They don't respond immediately. They pause. That's the level I'm trying to get to. Not necessarily I would love to be a millionaire, but I want to speak that way and react that way. And it takes a lot of intention and a lot of work. And then the second one was when you're that high of status, you learn to delegate. That delegate is really where your power comes in, because what happens is we're wasting our time doing this because we want to do everything, because we're control freaks and we've been let down by people who didn't do it the way we wanted or the way. And really, if we delegated this, then we would have so much more time to get to the next level. So I'm really concentrating on that too.
Well, a few things with that. One thing that I've always said to Haley is the loudest person in the room is the dumbest person in the room. And that is the truth.
And I used to want to be so loud. I wanted everybody to hear what I had to say because I want them to understand me. But they're looking at me like, what is wrong with her?
Yeah. Well, when you act psycho, nobody wants to hear you. But you had mentioned you don't have to act a certain way to be a millionaire. Well, it's really not necessarily money status, but research shows that successful people have the same tendencies.
Yes, they do. So I think that we're wrapping up for today. Let's give just a quick recap of submissiveness. While yes, it is important in the Bible, it doesn't just pertain to the Bible. There's different context behind it. It can work for relationships, friendships, all kinds of things. Do you want to do the small recap for everybody? Let them know how they can be submissive.
Husbands, pump for gas. Wives.
See, I knew your version was going to be the best version. That's why I said, you give the recap.
Really, it just boils down to respecting each other and making sure that each other's needs are met, whether that's physically or emotionally. And a lot of that comes with safety and communication. So,
more than anything, women in a relationship just want love and time, and men want respect
and sex.
And sex. Somebody wrote it on the bottom of my notes. I'm not really sure who did that, but
that was me.
Was that you? So apparently that's a huge part of it. So those are the takeaways from today. I want people to look at submissiveness in a good light instead of, I feel like when people say submissive. Yeah.
Well, if you're offended by it, you don't know what it means.
Man, that's a great quote. Drop the mic on that one. No, really. Do you have a quote, or is that your quote for today? Because that was a really good one. You just slid it in there.
It's by one of my favorite artists, Pink.
Oh, okay.
And once you figure out what respect tastes like, it tastes better than attention.
Oh man, those are two really, really good quotes. Mm-hmm. I love that one actually. So remember that this week. Do you want respect or do you want attention? Which one do you want? Because I want respect. Anybody can get attention. You can do anything to get attention. You can act like a crazy person, you can throw a tantrum. I want the respect behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I hope everybody has a good week. Come back next week for the next episode. I'm Haley,
I'm Chrissy.
and have a good week.